All right. Hey, well, welcome to this webinar from Future of Faith. We're excited to have you join us today. My name is Greg Arthur. I'm part of the team here. This Faithful Futures webinar is going to examine sacred tools for engaging younger generations. We're really excited to have you join us. We have an incredible array of panelists and different people that we're going to be talking to and hearing from today. So thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us. We know your time is precious, and we really appreciate you giving some of it to us and to this project. Just want to draw your attention to some things. At the bottom, you'll see a Q&A button. So if you have questions for any of the panelists, for the authors we're going to be speaking to, things that pop up, if you've read the book or you know anything about Future of Faith, or if you're doing work with youth, whatever you have, please just drop those questions in there and we're going to gather those. We may try to be able to answer some of those along the way. If not, we're planning on having a Q&A at the end where we can see what people's what most common questions are and grab a hold of some of those answers and doing that. Also want to just make sure and send you to a couple of websites where you can find more information about what's happening in the book. Go to faithfulfuturesbook.com, where you'll find the book and resources and different exciting things that we're doing that are attached to that. Also, futureoffaith.org. We also will be sending a lot of these links out in the follow-up email to the webinar, so you'll get a chance to go back and to find those. I just want to highlight something I think that's really cool that we're doing, which is the Faithful Futures Fund. A big part of who we are at Future of Faith is we're not just trying to promote our work, but we're always looking to promote and to celebrate others who are doing amazing things and to give them a platform and to recognize them and to celebrate them. And this Faithful Futures Fund is designed specifically for that. We want to help find and identify people that are really doing some significant work, especially amongst with younger generations, and we want to give them recognition and celebrate them. So if you go to the faithfulfuturesbook.com, you'll find links there for the Faithful Futures Fund, and you can nominate someone for a $250 cash award that would help celebrate and support their impact. So it's no strings attached to that. It's just us getting a chance to celebrate amazing people who are doing great things. So make sure you check that out. It's my privilege then to invite Josh Packard, who is co-founder of Future of Faith and the author of that exciting and beautiful book that Megan just showed for us. Josh, welcome to your webinar. We're so glad to have you.
Thanks, Greg. Look, it's really great to be here, and thanks for that very lovely introduction, Megan. It's nice. It's the kind of an odd deal here that this book was sort of developed in concert with Future of Faith, and so it's really great to get to do this with the Future of Faith team. I'm really appreciative of everybody and everybody for being here.
Well, one of the things we want to do is to give people a chance to hear from you and to get a little more insight into the book and the work and what inspired it. And so let's have a chat about that for a couple of minutes. You've given, when you write a book, it's like you birth a part of yourself into the world and you put it out there. And that's a great celebration. Also feels a little bit of exposed, right? As you take something you care so passionately about and send it out to the world. So give us just a little bit of an overview of the project. Like, what were you looking for in this research? What was motivating that? And then what did you find?
Yeah, thanks. It's really, I think the point that I'm trying to get across in Faithful Futures is this idea that, for so long we have thought about generations as containers, that, we would say like Gen X is fill in the blank. Millennials are narcissistic. What was Gen X lazy? I think that was the thing, is that they're slackers. I mean, that was the name of the movie. And those containers never were particularly good fits for understanding people, but they got us some, they got us some purchase. We knew that they were not 100% accurate, but they at least advanced the ball a little bit down the field. I think where we're at with these like teenagers today, it's what we would commonly call Gen Z and Gen Alpha, is that they're so diverse that any attempt to sum them up into a container, you would actually be losing clarity. You'd be going backwards, not forward. And so the book is really my attempt to call for how should we be thinking actually about teenagers in order to do ministry in ways that is resonant with them, that is sort of an accurate understanding of what teenagers are going through. And so throughout you'll see all kinds of we point back to listening, just like we do at Future of Faith, because we think that's what the data are showing. But also, it's a weird place to be. And this is when you say feeling exposed, I feel exposed. Like, it's a weird place to be as somebody who does, we have done lots of big national research studies throughout my life, my professional life. And often in the book, I'm saying things like, you really shouldn't pay attention to those at all. Right? Like the data that are coming from the young people that you work with every day, the ones in your community, that far surpasses anything that you're going to learn from Gallup or Pew or even studies that we do. Like, those can be informative, but really, let's start going from the ground up, not the top down.
So as you did that, as you tried to find far more nuance in the generations, trying to identify some of the unifying pieces, but also some of the real diversity, what were some things that surprised you as a researcher with that really just grabbed hold of you and maybe even shifted the project along the way?
Oh man, that's such an interesting question. Okay, I mean, so people that like think that we're hosting this webinar, and so we would have like pre-written these questions. We did not.
No, we got to get it fresh. Got to keep it fresh, I know, right? And off the cuff. This is important.
So the thing that really kind of like took hold of me that I couldn't let go of is this idea that as we advance over the last, 70 years or so, and people, we've been eroding this consistent erosion of institutional trust. And I, for a long time, was saying things like, well, trust is disappearing. And what I came to understand as I was writing this was that trust isn't disappearing, it's relocating. And that relocation is that it's just being pushed down to the relational, to people that when teenagers know that you have listened long enough to understand what they're going through, not that you agree with everything they're doing, but that you have listened long enough to understand them. That's where we start to earn real trust. And that was sort of like, that helped to shift all of my thinking. So I was like, well, they don't trust anything. That, I would say that as a sociologist, because we only look at the 60,000 foot view all the time, right? Yeah. And through conversations, through, when I would give talks and we chat afterwards or in Q&A and stuff like that, I realized like, the trust hasn't disappeared. It's just moved. And I think, and even in our own study of Future of Faith, which came out after this manuscript was written, we threw in this question at the end about, do you trust the stuff that you're seeing online, or are you skeptical because of AI? And so many people were saying like, I don't even trust the stuff, that I see online because of artificial intelligence now, which just told me like this, it's not even the people they follow that they trust, right? It's really getting pushed down. And so I was like, we're all doubting Thomases now. Like the teenagers today, if they can't see it, touch it, taste it, feel it, then it's not, it's not like real enough to them in a way that they're going to trust it with their lives.
So it's not that trust doesn't exist. Maybe in some ways it's flattened out because it's not a hierarchical trust in institutions. Right. It's not just an assumed trust, it's an earned trust. But listening plays a really key part to earning that trust. So how does it do that? Why is listening so key to developing trust? If that's what it takes, if it's localized trust, if it's personal trust, if it's a flattening of expectations for that, how is listening key to that?
Well, I think this is where young people have been really consistent for a long time. And I don't think this is it. This is what I mean by like not trying to, pigeonhole these groups of people in between two arbitrary birth years, because this is a trend that's been forming for a really long time, which is that listening is critical in a world where everybody is talking and nobody feels heard. I mean, listening actually ends up like this like radical act in this world where it feels like everybody's shouting at one another all the time. And it's especially important in places where we get an opportunity to disrupt the power dynamic. And this is where I think it does matter that we're talking about teenagers. So when an adult or a pastor or somebody who does have an authority role, when they disrupt that and they stop talking and start listening, it conveys a sense of value to the young people in that equation. And I remember this really distinctly from when I was a professor and I was taking notes. I tell this story a lot. I was taking notes about one of my advisees, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to like remember the stuff that you say." And she's like, "Oh, wait, we write down the stuff that you say. Nobody ever writes down the stuff we say." Right? Like it totally shifted the entire like paradigm of that interaction that I was actually paying attention enough to take notes on what she was saying, not just in the classic student teacher relationship. And so I think that becomes just this like wildly subversive in a good way, thing that you can do in this world that doesn't expect it.
Mm. So there's the radical act of listening is transforming, right? It has a disruption to a culture of outrage, where everybody's yelling or everybody's platforming themselves. But if you're actually engaged in active listening, this now is almost a counter experience to
Right.
so much of what's happening in other parts of life.
Well, I think the reason why I say it's subversive in a good way is because it's in those moments that we're so challenging the norm of what they're used to, that really it moves from something that's sort of everyday and mundane and expected, and into the opportunity for the sacred to enter in. That
Hmm.
there's actually an opportunity for them to see God in this space. And I get, like, adults get really worried about listening to teenagers because if you do it for any length of time, I mean, they tell you some like wild things, like,
Right.
just they have
Right.
ideas and thoughts and plans that are just like, you want to step in and correct them right away. um and I, like, I get that temptation, but teenagers have been telling us in so many ways, like, we don't, when we talk and you listen, we don't think that you're condoning everything we're doing.
Hmm.
um and multiple times I've been talking with teenagers, like, just out in the wild, so to speak, or when I get the opportunity to give a presentation and they're in the audience and they say, a lot, I don't really even know how I feel about something until I talk it out.
Hmm.
And so if adults could understand that a lot of what's happening when teenagers talk is like they're just working it out. They don't actually need or want you to step in, and certainly don't want it unsolicited to step in and correct in that moment, but they're really just looking for a way to get to chat and, sort of bounce ideas off of people. And then that, the ability to correct and like guide and all those things will happen later on. But it can be alarming at first because they say things that can be so far off the rails at times. But if we remind ourselves that so much of being a teenager is about trying things and experimenting,
Yeah.
and like, getting into the process, then I think we can be a little bit more at ease with that.
And this expectation that growing in faith requires this full participation in it.
Yeah.
And you don't do that merely by listening to others tell you what faith is.
Right.
Right. You don't, it's not like, well, I've listened to all of the talks and received all of the teaching. Now I have an active faith. No,
Yeah.
you may have some religious knowledge, but you don't have faith within that. So the ability to be listened to speak, to pursue, it is an involvement. It's a drawing you deeper into participation in that faith, which is essential for any sort of growth and development.
I think that's so well put, Greg. I mean, you would never become like a good baseball player by reading books about baseball. At some point, you
Yeah.
have to play baseball. I mean, I'm reminded of that really powerful scene from Good Will Hunting, when Robin Williams' character is talking to Matt Damon I think it's on a park bench, and he said, you can read all the poems you want about war, but if you've never been in war, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can read, you can listen to and other people talk about loss and death, but if you've never sat next to your wife as she, is fighting for every breath, like, you don't really know what this is like.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly right. I mean, you can listen to all the adults tell you what faith is, but until you start poking around at the messy edges, what do you really know? And that's what teenagers are doing all the time in all the other parts of their lives, as they try new hairstyles and they, think about what they want to be when they grow up, and they date different people and those kinds of things. Faith falls right into that paradigm.
So you've written a book, you've done all this research, you've thrown it out into the world. What are some of your personal hopes with this? What are some of your dreams for the impact it can have beyond? I mean, I know you well enough to know the purpose of this was not, I'm going to sell a lot of books. And this is going to like platform me as the
Yeah.
guru of listening. That was not your goal. There was a far bigger hope for it. So how would you articulate that?
Well, I hope the book does a couple of things. I mean, I hope this work does a couple of things. I hope we can start thinking about teenagers differently. Towards the end of the webinar here, we're going to be talking with Wes Ellis, and it's this idea that this incarnational approach to what teenagers are, that they are worthy of your own attention right now, today, as they are. Like, they're not worthy for who they will be later. But I hope we can start to encounter them in that moment of really honoring who they are as teenagers. And I think that this can contribute to that paradigm shift in some way. But also, like, it's this really weird thing. Like, it's a book primarily written for people who are doing active ministry with young people. And at the same time, I think that like the people who are doing that work will hopefully read this and flip through it, and they'll get an idea or two, or they'll take it away. But I think mostly what they're going to do with it is that they're going to take it and they're going to hand it to their boss, and they're going to say, now can I please just get on with the work that I've already been doing that I know is so valuable that you won't let me do? Because, their bosses want them to like log office hours and, stay on campus and, be at the church. And I think a lot of what this research shows is that like, we got to go meet young people. Like, it's not waiting for them to come in or back in, is not going to work.
Well, I think you have certainly created a great resource, and it's a really helpful tool for practitioners who are actually trying to do this work, for thinking about how to do it better, and for rooting it into their own faith expression. Just want to highlight and especially go to faithfulfuturesbook.com, where you can engage with the book and the resources. The Faithful Future Fund that we mentioned earlier, nominate somebody. We're looking for all of the great listeners that are out there, and for people to submit them so that we can support them and honor them in all the ways that we do. And as always, go to futureoffaith.org, sign up for the newsletter. You're going to get lots of great free resources every month that appear, and that are part of that. So thank you so much for being part of this today. Thank you for taking time out of this for your support of Future of Faith, and reach out to us. If you have questions, have ideas, we would love to get to know you and to hear about what's happening in your ministry context. So thanks, everybody.